Let's talk to Campaign Director at Defund the BBC, Rebecca Warren. Welcome, Rebecca. Happy New Year to you. What do you make of the BBC? They had a terrible Christmas, didn't they? I mean, they did their usual thing. Nobody else bothers at Christmas, only the BBC. And every year, BBC, 9 of the top 10 programmes were on the BBC. But not many people watched them, did they? This was a real sea change this year. I believe that the ratings generally on the BBC was 16 to 20% down on last Christmas. What do you think's going on? Jeremy Clarkson is talking about, you know, it's woeful wokery, it's right-on left-wingism, it's coverage of Gaza, programmes like the Doctor Who, you know, becoming some kind of nonsense about climate change and gender politics and so on and so forth. Basically, Clarkson says the BBC has left its audience, that the BBC is no longer identified as the national broadcaster by millions and millions of particularly young people. They've kind of lost it, haven't they?
Absolutely. I think it's a combination of the two things there. I think Jeremy is absolutely right that the BBC has completely lost grasp on what people actually want to watch. Considering that we're forced to pay for the BBC, if any of us watch live broadcasting, we have to pay for this organisation. They really have a duty to be, you know, delivering content that we actually want to watch. But also, you know, aside from that, is the fact that people aren't really watching live broadcast TV at all. You know, the numbers, I think the highest number was Vicar of Dibley, 3 million, which is a fraction of what it used to be back in the day when people would actually sit and watch TV during Christmas. So it's completely woeful. And yet we're still forced to pay for it. So where's the money going? You know, that's the thing. They're literally just blowing this money away on these woke projects, as Jeremy was saying. You know, and the fact that they tried to, you know, it's hilarious reading Jeremy's piece there in the Times, because he was talking about how they tried to make up the trio, or it might have been his producer that was saying that they replace one of them with somebody sort of young and black or Asian, someone non-white and young, just to sort of, you know, mix things up. It's just we had the sort of, you know, world record sort of for the most watched programming, and they thought, oh, let's improve on it by doing some diversity boxing.
And I like the way the BBC always said, all the BBC apologists, oh, everybody knocking the BBC. Did they notice that 9 of the top 10 most watched programmes at Christmas were on the BBC? Yeah, we did. But we also noticed that the numbers, the audiences, were hugely down. Was it last year or was it year before when they showed Gavin and Stacey, and that got about like 12 million live viewers? This year, the biggest number they got was The King, who got 6.56 million on the BBC alone. And the next biggest programme was The Scarecrow's Wedding, whatever the hell that is. That got 4.31 million. Strictly Come Dancing, 4.2. Call the Midwife, 3.4. EastEnders, 2.85. I mean, these are really feeble numbers, aren't they?
They really are, and it just shows people aren't watching live broadcast TV. You know, if you can't watch it at Christmas when people are sort of passed out on the sofa, sort of overeating and over drinking, they really aren't watching. They're watching something else. They're watching and they're watching catch up, and therefore they don't need to pay for a TV license. That must be scaring the BBC. So they're putting on this sort of front saying, "Oh, look, as you said, we're in the top 9. We're all BBC." But it's like, because people are probably watching BBC iPlayer or BBC because they're forced already to pay for it, but they're not taking into account all of the catch-up content on Netflix and Amazon Prime, Plus, and all of those things.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the BBC continues to sort of devour itself, doesn't it? It's sort of set up these whistleblower departments. It's just hired 2 120 grand a year head of corporate investigations and whistleblowing. Basically, these guys or people will be responsible for weeding out wrongdoing. In other words, in the future, if there's a Greg Wallace or a Hugh Edwards situation, this top team, these 250 grand's worth of top people, will investigate. So this is all very well and good, but what you're setting up here is a kind of a kind of mad banquet whereby any single disgruntled employee will go to these whistleblowing executives, and a big investigation will be undertaken. And if they don't decide that the programme and the producer and the editor are guilty, then the guy will go public and say the BBC didn't care about me. So the BBC will be terrified of that. In other words, every complaint that is made, almost every complaint, will be sustained, will be upheld. Therefore, the BBC has already destroyed MasterChef. No one's watching that anymore. They're getting rid of the audience of Strictly Come Dancing. They've got rid of half the cast. The 2 stars have gone as well. I suspect that show may soon die a death, lost in its own scandals. MasterChef died a death, eaten by its own scandals, and the BBC is fueling the fire by hiring very highly paid executives to pander to every complaint from every disgruntled BBC employee. This is a self-harming recipe for disaster, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's that, but also, you know, I think it's, we've seen the BBC time and time again. I don't hold out much faith that they're actually going to be upholding all of those complaints. These people are just going to have their heads on the block, I think, next time something comes around. You know, I can't see that they're going to change their culture so much that they're going to actually so-called talent. This would probably be more for internal management disputes and what have you. But again, it's just got a massive HR department. Did they really need to buy, you know, get into more people on such huge salaries?
Yeah.
Did they really have managed that?
It's true. The BBC, in any given problem, it's like their solution is, how can we spend a lot more of TV licence payers' money? I know, let's hire 2 people for £250,000 to set up a whistleblowing department. That's a great idea. It's a lousy idea. It will just waste money, but they'll say, oh, we've really addressed this problem. But I do think, I take your point that, you know, maybe many complainers won't get what they want, but the BBC is literally eating itself. I mean, it's taking every successful programme it's got and undermining it, investigating it, making it untenable. It's a very weird situation. It's going to be an interesting year this year for the BBC when they lose their Director General and their Head of News. How do you think things will pan out for 2026 for Auntie B, the state broadcaster?
I mean, I think they will desperately be fighting to continue. There's going to be huge PR campaigns about how much they are wanted. You know, there's this sort of government sort of consultation at the moment where they want right in to say, you know, how their thoughts on the BBC. We would certainly encourage all of your listeners to give their views, because otherwise, we know the BBC is going to trot out. You know, that everybody loves the BBC and is determined and wants for it to continue, because that's what they do best, is self-promotion, whilst also not delivering on any of their obligations. So I can't really see much changing for the BBC other than this continued, as you say, eating itself alive. Just being disaster after disaster.
Abu Hamza, the Hook guy, the hate preacher, the British hate preacher, currently doing life in prison for terrorist offences over in America, in Colorado, in ADX Florence, which is in the Rocky Mountains. They call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies. It is said to be the most secure prison on the face of the earth. It's very serious. Prisoners spend every single moment in solitary confinement. It must be a living hell. Hamza is launching his own bid. He's going to represent himself to get transferred. He wants to come back to Britain or go to a less secure prison. Good luck with that. Unlikely to happen. Among other things, he complains that the guards at ADX Florence have taken away his metal hook and replaced it with a flimsy, inefficient plastic hook, because they say the metal one is dangerous. You can see where they're coming from. Really sorry to hear that about poor Abu. But he's stuck there, and he probably will continue to be stuck there. So going forward, that will be the rest of his life. What a life, stuck in 24/7 solitary confinement. What is it like in the world's most secure prison? Let's talk to someone who knows, someone who did time there, ex-prisoner, author now of a book called A Clean Hell, Anarchy and Abolition in America's Most Notorious Dungeon. Welcome to the show, Eric King. Welcome, Eric.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, tell us, I mean, I don't think Abu Hamza is going to get out. I'm less interested in that, but I'm very interested in his life, a life that you have experienced. So he's doing 24/7 solitary confinement in this jail, which I gather is sort of clinically clean, but a living hell to be in. What is life like in that prison, Eric?
It's miserable.
I figured it might be. But go on. Yeah, go on.
You're so deeply isolated, not just from other prisoners, but from the reality of life, that you start losing yourself. You start losing your sense of purpose, your sense of identity, and it really messes with your head, and it can get really depressing really fast.
And so solitary confinement 24/7. What happens? What time do you wake up in the morning? How does the day go?
So I would wake up at 5:30. I think a lot of people do also, because breakfast is at 6. Okay. And so you basically set your schedule to your food schedule. So I've got breakfast at 6, lunch at 10:30, dinner at 4. So everything else happens in between there, cleaning your cell, trying to do workouts if you can. If you're lucky, you'll get some mail, doing some walking laps if you're physically capable. We have little small TVs in those cells because you have no other human contact. So you're able to watch some programs if you speak English and can understand those programs. So it can become very regimented or very miserable, as I said.
And what would breakfast be? What would the food be?
So every single day we have a set schedule of food. So Monday would be biscuits and gravy. It's usually a piece of bread with some gravy on it and some oatmeal. On Tuesdays, it's bran flake cereal. Wednesday, it is a waffle stick.
Okay.
Like some fried bread, stuff like that.
So what is the food, average or bad? It's bad. It's bad, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. It is trash. It is bad. You would not feed that to your animals.
Oh my God. So you get up at 5:30. You get your biscuits and gravy at 6 o'clock, and then your lunch comes at 10:30. What do you do? I mean, are you allowed to read books? I mean, you've got your TV, but that must drive you nuts anyway. But are you allowed to read books or anything like that?
Yeah, you can have select books sent in. It has to be from a bookseller like Amazon or whatever, and they have to be paperback. And there's a special, like it's the intelligence agency within that prison. It's called SIS, Special Investigative Services. Mm-hmm. They have to approve each book. And so for someone like Abu, the FBI and SIS has to approve it. So it can take months to get a book.
Wow. What were you in for, Eric? Right, you can tell me. I'm a doctor. It's okay.
I was in ADX. There's a weird little process, but I had gotten prosecuted for a staff assault and taken it to trial, and I won. But because I won, they got really upset about it. So they gave me what's called leadership status, and they can use that as an excuse to put anybody they find disruptive in that prison. So that is how I landed there.
And how long did you do in ADX, Eric?
I almost did 2 years. It was 5.5 years total isolation while I was like facing the other cases and everything, and then almost 2 years there. And I think Abu's been there for like 15.
Yeah, and total isolation, does that mean the only other humans you ever get to talk to are the guards?
Yeah, so there can be, if you yell really, really loud from your cell, someone can hear you on the range. There's 6 other people on your range, but it is just so hard because we have 2 doors.
Yeah.
So you have to yell through both doors to get heard. And then if you have recreation outside, they will put you in dog kennels. And your dog kennel might be next to someone else's dog kennel. So besides that, though, the only people you're talking to is staff, and none of us are wanting to talk to staff.
So what kind of state does that, I mean, you were talking about it earlier, but what kind of mental state does that put you into? What will Abu Hamza be going through every day, mentally, going through this regime?
So he has been on SAM's restrictions, which is even a harsher restrictions. So I imagine being also like physically disabled, along with having all of your mail take months or years, not getting phone calls unless it's like your mom or child, having those sort of restrictions, and then having restrictions on your faith as well. I was enraged every single day of my life. I developed a strong, passionate hatred for these people. And so everything I did that was positive was in defiance of them. Like, I'm going to make myself happy. I'm going to find joy just to piss these people off because they don't want you to have it. So I imagine for him it is.
But the sense of, I don't know if you had a finite sentence on your head, you had a release date to look forward to. He doesn't in particular. The sense of hopelessness, even if you have a release date in mind, must be profound.
The only thing that, like, I was able to contact a lot of jihadis that were in there, and those dudes have such intense faith that they are some of the strongest willed prisoners there. They don't seemingly, at least on the outside, get despair. They don't show that you're gonna break me spirit. Although you hear it happens, like Zachariah Moussaoui, I heard he's fallen apart, the 9/11 20th hijacker. But for the most part, those guys are resilient.
Do you, when you're in 24/7 solitary, do you ever come across other prisoners?
So because of them walking to recreation or being in the dog kennels, that gives you that option. And then I was also in a unit called the pre-release unit for people leaving.
Yeah.
So I got to talk to 2 or 3 other people an hour a day.
Okay. And did you ever come across Abu while you were there? I don't know if you were there at the same time, no?
We were there at the same time, but his unit is so secure, he will never see or talk to prisoners from any unit but his.
So he's in a really, really hardcore secure unit, yeah?
Yeah, that unit, like all of ADX is 24-hour lockdown, but some of us have less restrictions. His is as restricted as you can imagine. Like the FBI has to live listen to his phone calls, and they can only do that if there's a translator available, and he can only call one person. So like those sort of restrictions are, I think, for most people beyond comprehension.
Now, your book, Eric, yeah, I mean, his life must be a living hell. Your book is called A Clean Hell. So am I right, the ADX is a sort of clinically clean place? Is that right?
A warden called it that. That's where I got the title from. And it's because you're not going to see like the old fading like gym equipment and the rust and the blood from other prisoners and trash because we're all locked down. So it's like a sterile environment that just sucks all the joy.
And tell us about you now, Eric. Really, really good to talk to you. Really interesting, by the way. Are you on the straight and narrow?
I mean, I guess.
Yes, you are. Of course you are. You've seen the light, right?
Yeah, like I've got a good career. I've got a family. I'm still an activist when I can be, but yeah, I'm not getting involved in any crimes. Hell no. Channel
5, or 5 as they like to call themselves now, whatever happened to the channel? Channel 5 are going to make a TV drama. It's going to star Martin Clunes, you know, Doc Martin, men behaving badly. In fact, he's going to play a man behaving very badly, a man called Hugh Edwards, the BBC's in-house paedophile until he was forced to leave in disgrace, now a convicted child sex abuser. They're going to make a 2-part factual series. It has a working title called Power, The Downfall of Hugh Edwards. And it's going to be a collaboration between Five's factual and scripted commissioning teams, blah, blah, blah. Now, this will heap great embarrassment on the BBC, but I wonder if it would be worth watching. Will it be entertaining? But it certainly will highlight the most embarrassing saga of recent times for the state broadcaster. Let's talk to former BBC presenter Sally Jones. Welcome, Sally.
Hi, good to see you. I mean, I cannot believe that that this is going to be screened. It's just a sort of personal tragedy being aired, and I think it's utter prurient sensationalism and a ratings grab, and I think they should be ashamed of themselves.
Do you think it's a bit like when the BBC did a drama about Jimmy Savile?
Well, I mean, I think it's all of a piece, actually. I mean, I think it's obviously, there was a lot of question at the time about whether or not the BBC paid Hugh Edwards' salary after they knew what he was going to be accused of, and they'd already ascertained that, you know, it seemed to be that he was guilty of this. And so obviously he may well be making money from this, because I assume that he has collaborated with Channel 5. And,
well, we better be a bit careful about that.
As the sort of Hugh Edwards lookalike. Who himself has his own skeletons in his cupboard, but, you know, I presume that, I mean, Hugh Edwards may feel that this is the only way that he can actually make money.
Well, we don't know. We don't know that. Well, we don't know whether or not he's going to get any money. I mean, you don't have to pay him any money. You can just do it. I mean, as I say, you say it. I mean, I take your point. I mean, it's a strange new syndrome in television drama, but you called it prurient, and Channel 5 should be ashamed of themselves. But the BBC, they made a drama series about Jimmy Savile, Steve Coogan playing the main star role. So it just seems to be a new trend in television. My guess would be, Sally, there's no way 5 will be paying Hugh Edwards. He'll just have to put up with it. That's the way it goes. That's the way the cookie
Well, I mean,
crumbles.
he will have to put up with it, but I have a feeling, because I understand he's recently had a load of publicity stills taken, and people were saying, is he mad? Does he really think he's going to make a comeback? Well, it may well be that this is why he's had those publicity stills taken, because he thinks that this is somehow, well, he might make some money from it if he collaborates with the makers of it, because I think it would make the programme far more sensationalist and prurient if he were part of it than if they were simply doing it with somebody who's a lookalike, you know, with no input from him. I mean, in a way, it's a bit like, it's like a modern day version of the scandalous story of the rector of Stiffkey, who was, I think, for some sort of sexual shenanigans in the 1930s, he was defrocked. And he started displaying himself on Blackpool seafront, and he was eventually killed when he was in a lion's cage on Skegness seafront, and you know, that was all due to him trying to make a few bob.
Trying to make cash in on his own.
As far as I know, this may well be exactly what Hugh Edwards is doing.
Well, I would personally, well, we don't know the details. I'd be personally very, very surprised if Channel 5, or 5 as they now call themselves, are in any kind of arrangement with a convicted paedophile, as in Hugh Edwards, at all. I don't think they will do that.
I think that if you're desperate enough for money, and you're asked to do it.
Yeah, but if you were Channel 5, would you do that? I wouldn't. I wouldn't do a deal with a convicted paedophile. Doesn't make them look like very responsible broadcasters, would it?
I think if I were absolutely on my uppers, and I can't tell. I know never ever be in that position, but I think at times
Hugh Edwards
you'll
might
do anything just to get in a few bob, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but Hugh Edwards might take the money, but I'm saying that I don't think in a month of Sundays, Channel 5 as they now call themselves, will be giving him any money. I think they'll just do this without any involvement from Edwards at all.
I think if they manage to get Edwards being interviewed or speaking about it, the chances are he will have some sort of excuse, like mental health, or all the things that people, or they've now got religion, or all the reasons that people usually give for having transcended their past evils. It may well be that there's something like that. Why else would he be having these various publicity photos taken? Because I don't suppose he's going to be asked to open too many garden fetes at the moment.
That's for damn sure. I mean, will you watch it? I will.
I'm afraid I will, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So you said it's prurient, but there's something very compelling about it, isn't there?
We are all prurient. I mean, one of my guilty pleasures used to be watching Jeremy Kyle. My children used to laugh like
it
crazy.
still is
I
one.
like
It
reading
still is
his,
one of mine,
I'm,
Sally.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, well, you can watch them every day on Talk here on this channel. But see, I mean, it's an interesting project, controversial, I agree. As I say, we don't know the details, but it would be interesting. See, if in any way Hugh Edwards is going to give them proper interviews, that this will be part drama and part factual interviews, and Hugh Edwards is interviewed, that would be pretty sensational. What do you think, just before you go, Sally? Good to talk. Thank you for coming on. What do you think of the casting of Martin Clunes as Hugh Edwards? I can see sort of slight physical similarities.
Yeah, I mean, not only do they, I mean, they're both 64. They both look, I mean, Clunes, though he's more of a sort of clunky, kind of slightly hobbitish looking guy, but they obviously, prosthetics and things can make people look incredibly like, I mean, there was a very funny thing where, who was it? Dominic West.
Yeah, he played
suddenly noticed the similarity with Fred West and actually played him.
Yeah.
But also, I think Clunes has got his own skeletons in his cupboard, so there is that sort of sense of slight moral ambivalence about that actor, which in a way, that may be partly why he was cast.
Has he got skeletons in his cupboard? I've never heard of any skeletons in Martin Clunes' cupboard. I'm going to have to well, I'll look that up. But
look back about 20 years.
All right, I will. But
I won't mention it. But you have a look.
I'll look it up. But in the meantime, Martin Clunes remains Doc Martin, a very much loved, beloved actor. But Sally, good to talk to you, and you and I will both be tuning in to the Hugh Edwards story when it happens. Thank you very much for joining me. Sally Jones, their former BBC presenter on the Hugh Edwards drama. It's going to be on Channel 5. Now, I want to say for the record, but Sally, I would be stunned, shocked, if Channel 5 have entered into any kind of financial arrangement with Hugh Edwards. I don't think they would even contemplate that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. I very much doubt it. If this project will involve actual interviews with Hugh Edwards, that'll be fascinating. As Sally said, perhaps it's not the most morally uplifting of projects, but you can't deny it's compelling, isn't it? I'll be tuning in, I guarantee you that. Labour's plans for a near zero tolerance on drink driving. They're going to basically make it, or they want to make it so that you can only have 1 pint or even less before you get behind the wheel. Any more than that and you will fail the breathalyzer and be banned from 18 months. None of us approve of drink driving, of course. But a lot of people are saying, well, leave us alone. Why are you doing this? This is the first time these laws have changed since 1967. There are no real statistics to show that this will make the roads safer. Why are you doing this? But the real worry is for people like my next guest, people who are running pubs, landlords, the hospitality business. They're in enough trouble as it is, and this will prevent more people going to the pub. Let's talk to the spokesman for my favourite campaign, which is No Labour MPs in Pubs. He's the landlord of the Old Thatch pub in Dorset, Andy Lennox. He's on the phone. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. Well, before we get to your excellent campaign to keep Labour MPs out of the pubs, I think you should expand it. We should ban them from all sorts of things, like public life, that kind of thing. But seriously, if this law comes in, and let's face it, it probably will because of Labour's majority, you'll only be allowed to have less than 1 pint. People won't come to the pub at all, will they? How damaging do you think this might be, Andy, to the pub industry?
Well, look, I mean, we're the nail in the coffin for all pubs, and don't get me wrong, it's an awful thing to bring in. Don't get me wrong, we don't want to see death on our streets or anything like that, or anything like that. But on the flip side, a rural pub, it depends on, you know, those people coming in there for a pint and then going home. But let's be honest, it's just detracting from the real issues. And it's just Labour the government at the moment, just trying to basically palm us on into another conversation, which we're not going to do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, business rates, you know, VAT, these are the problems. You know, it's not about rural pubs.
Yeah, and also I just think, you know, as you quite rightly say, Andy, you know, none of us condone drink driving. It's a terrible thing, and you know, you never want to see the relatives of people who've been killed by a drunk driver. It's a heartbreaking, terrible thing to do. But do we need this new law? I mean, the existing law for drink driving has been in power since 1967. No changes since then. Suddenly they're going to bring it hurtling downwards.
It's incredibly interesting, isn't it, that it's just come in just now when we're actually starting to make some kind of inroads into getting in, you know, into government and actually trying to make our voice heard, that they've now issued this kind of, oh, this is what we're going to do. It's another licensing, the whole licensing measures thing. It makes no sense. None of it makes any sense.
Unless we were discussing this earlier in the show, that maybe it's some kind of dead cat tactic to try and divert us from the serious issues that we should be worried about.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And did you see it as a landlord? Did you see this coming? Because I hadn't heard any indications about this. Had you?
No, not at all. Nothing at all. And we've been told to be quiet and shut up. And, you know, we've been told that if we keep on, you know, making noise and we keep on, you know, doing what we're doing, we won't get anything. Well, you know, we're not going to be told to, you know, we're the third biggest industry in the UK. We employ 3 million people. We're not going to just be quiet. And I think that they're throwing everything at the moment at us. Licensing measures. Oh, we're going to open till 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody needs us to open up until 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. It's not, we don't need to do that, you know. And then again, you know, licensing laws, you know, we're not going to be able to go to the rural pub because you won't be able to have a pint. They're just throwing as much as they possibly can to try and detract from the real thing that we're trying to talk about.
Yeah, but why are they attacking pubs? Is it because they're killjoy Puritans? Do you remember their plan not so long ago to ban smoking in pub gardens? Everybody goes, well, what's that for? And even they back down on that one. But it just seems they don't like pubs because people enjoy themselves in pubs. And somehow or other, these socialists don't like people enjoying themselves.
It's not about enjoying yourself in a pub. It's about a pub as a community, and that's where you chat. It's where you have conversation. It's where you discuss things. And, you know, one of the biggest problems that I've had as bringing in this whole no Labour MP thing was that, you know, oh, well, you're trying to shut down conversation. No, we're trying to open up conversation. Mm-hmm. And if you shut down pubs, you close down conversation. And I don't think it's a Puritan thing. I don't think it's, you know, in that sense, I think it's trying to shut down conversation, trying to shut down, you know, we all talk in a pub. You go to the pub, you have a pint, you chat about world affairs, you chat about what's going on. You know, they are the community hubs.
But why do they seem to be so against pubs? This is you know, an undoubted attack on the welfare of our boozers, isn't it?
This is not just pubs. This is hospitality. They are going after hospitality. I mean, this is not just pubs. It's restaurants. It's hotels. It's everything. They're going after hospitality like an.
But why? Like why, Andy? Do you think?
Because they don't deem us to be a organised. You know, proper, you know, job. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, they look at us and they say, well, oh, you know, everyone has their first job in hospitality and everybody is in hospitality, but it's not really a proper job. But actually it is. And you know what? We employ 3 million people. We're the third biggest employer in the country. We generate 60 billion in tax. We're a big deal. The problem is they don't recognise us as being a big deal. And that's what we've got to change.
Now, you're a country pub. You're in Dorset. I don't know how far out in the country
I've got one very far out in the country, and so you know, this would really hurt. Yeah.
This will be devastating for that, won't it?
Yeah, because ultimately we already see it now. You know, you don't get drinkers. You have passerbys. You know, someone who will drop in for a bit of food and a pint. But if they can't drop in for a bit of food and a pint, then what is the point of that pub being there?
Yeah,
they need to be able to have a point. You know, just one. We're not saying two. We're not saying three. We're just saying you have to be able to have one.
And also, the other thing I would think about this is, you know, nothing is ever perfect. Of course, we'd love a perfect world where everybody was ultimately responsible and never had a drink before they got behind the wheel. But you will know this. The vast majority of motorists are responsible about this. I said earlier in the show, even I am. Even I don't drink and drive, which is a real signal to how many people are responsible on this issue.
As are the vast majority of publicans.
That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that this government, it's like they don't trust us, do they? Treat us like children.
It's kind of like we don't need to be policed that much.
Exactly.
Publicans police that. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, if I see someone that they're going to drive, you're going to say, look, you know, don't have another one. You know, we're not those kind of people that go, oh, you know, I'll have to have 3 more and have 6 shots. Yeah. You know, that's not what it is. I mean, one of my pubs out in the sticks, it's a foodie destination. So you go there, you're going there for the food, but you're going to have a pint. You might have a small glass of wine.
Exactly.
You're going to do that, and it is overreach. You just don't need any government to look into it. But what they're trying to do right now is detract from what we have literally absolutely pile drived through over the last 6 weeks. You know, this whole campaign has absolutely gone to the heart of government, and they are scared.
Yeah.
And they are trying to throw as much as they possibly can in different places. Oh, we're going to open till 1 a.m. Oh, we're going to open till this. We're going to do this. We're going to now, change driving laws. They're trying to do everything they possibly can to detract from what we're actually asking for, which is we need the business rates to basically be sorted, but also we need a VAT cut in line with Europe at 13%. That is the key. Yeah. That is the key.
Let's talk to the Chief Executive of Freedom from Abuse, Marilyn Hawes. Hi, Marilyn. I sent you this story today. Were you as shocked as I was when you read it?
I hadn't read it yesterday. I was absolutely outraged. I mean, this is the CPS, the crumbling prosecution service, in my view. I mean, saying sorry doesn't cut the mustard, does it? You haven't trodden on you haven't trodden on someone's toe. You've trodden all over their life, their soul, and everything. And that child is never ever, or adult is never ever going to forget it. And what really hacks me off about Starmer is that before he came in, I can't believe he ever got voted in. But, he actually did say it was a personal mission of his to actually stand up for violence against women and girls. Now, I'd be very interested to know how many of these children and adults were actually also men and boys, because everybody's fixated on violence against women, but it also happens against boys as well. But that being the case, sorry just doesn't actually cut it. I mean, you've got here, a community resolution order isn't even a criminal offence. It just means that you have been told, I had someone that was following me around. It wasn't quite stalking. This happened last year. And they got a community resolution order. And that just meant that this person couldn't be where I would normally go. But, I mean, had I been raped by that person, I would have expected them to go into jail.
It goes like this, Marion. This is what's happened. This is what a kind of a mission creep. Community resolution deals were brought in for minor crimes.
And they really are minor.
Yeah, but what's happened is the police and the Crown Prosecution Service have allowed the remit of community resolutions to expand. And last year they were used to clear up 912 sex crimes. That means 17 serious sex offenders every week last year got away scot-free by saying sorry to their victims. Now, check this one out. The Humberside police used a community resolution to conclude an investigation into the rape of a boy aged under 13. This is what are they thinking?
I mean, truly, this country is run by a bunch of numpties. Numpties and wokies, that's what it's run by. I am outraged. And what gets me as well is, this is the quote from the Home Office. The Home Office said We put our faith in them, don't we? Not.
No.
There's said community resolutions, and they have said this themselves, are intended, and I quote, to be used for less serious offences or incidents of antisocial behaviour. Correct. These are not, minor offences, less serious offences. This is unbelievably the worst thing you can ever do to a child or any human.
Yeah,
It's
160,
awful.
166.
I know.
Paedophile sex abuse offences against children last year. 166, 400 sex assaults altogether. As I say, last year, this was up. The year before, they used community resolutions on about 600 serious sex offences. Last year, more than 900, which means they're coming in. That means 17 serious sex offenders. Some of them, people who rape children, are being let off by saying sorry. What is going on?
And what example does this say to anybody else in the community or in the country? I mean, it's awful. I mean, here we have again, police with a proportionate means of addressing lower level crime. Now, this is what they're getting away with, involving first-time offenders who show genuine remorse. Well, if they think a sex offender, a child rapist, a paedophile ever has genuine remorse, then quite frankly, they're barking at the moon, because they do not understand. I mean, give me strength, for goodness sake, because these people who are into these sort of crimes are liars, they're plausible, they're manipulative, they know how to play the system, they know how to protect themselves, and I have never met one, and I've been into prisons, I've never met one who was remorseful. The only remorse you get is because they've been caught, and this is a shocking example. The society in this country at the moment is utterly feral.
This is weird. I mean, I'll tell you what it feeds into, in my view, what we learned when old Hugh Edwards, the BBC...
Oh, don't start on that grubby
BBC's in-house paedophile. When he went to court, we learned, and everybody said, "Well, how come he didn't go to jail?" And we learned that there's essentially in this country a policy that paedophiles, no matter what they do on their first offence, don't go to jail. The Home Office, in terms of these community resolutions, said they are intended to be used for less serious offences or incidents of antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, like robbing a handbag.
Yeah, it says that the community resolutions provide the police with a proportionate means of addressing low-level crime. Raping a child is a low-level crime?
Well, you can't get any worse than that, can you?
No,
it's complete,
you're right.
Utter violation. How is that child going to feel when one day it gets older, maybe it's buried what's happened to it, and then 15 years later, that poor child has got anxiety, depression, is self-harming, maybe even tries to take its own life, because there has been no justice at all. And the other thing that they've got here, this method, it says here, was also used to deal with, wait for it, 173 crimes of exposure of voyeurism, right? And one person who actually admitted sexual exploitation of a child. Well, that's extraordinarily awful. But men and boys who expose themselves, who are voyeuristic, almost always it's a continuum into rape.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing. The police said, in terms of this story, that the victim, normally, these resolutions normally require the victim to consent to this system, to be just apologised to, normally, which means that some victims of these serious sexual crimes get this imposed on them. They don't get justice. They don't have a say in it. It is forced upon them. This is outrageous, Marilyn.
It's absolutely awful. But if you think of a 10-year-old, say it's a 10-year-old that's been raped or touched up or whatever, I mean, little children don't really understand what they don't like it, but they really don't understand what life is going to be like for them going forward, having had that dreadful trauma meted on them, and for them to be coerced into saying, "Oh yes, I'll take an apology." It's outrageous. That in itself is abusive. It is just. I just cannot get my head around this at all. I really can't. It is absolutely abhorrent. It is the most heinous crime you can do. and there we are. You just say sorry. I mean, it's just...
This system has got to stop. It really
But
has.
the whole thing, the whole country is a bloody mess. I mean, it's absolutely dreadful.
Let's not get started on that. We've only got another hour and a half of the show to go.
Can I be here till Easter, Kevin?
Yeah. We'll be here till next year, won't we? Listen, Marilyn, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Marilyn Hall's their Chief Executive CEO of Freedom from Abuse, who campaigns entirely against abuse of children. Well, let's kick off with kind of implicit news that we won't be seeing With Love Meghan again on Netflix. How did we learn this? Not with an explosive announcement. It was just sort of fizzled out, didn't it? It filtered out because Netflix yesterday announced all of the big main attraction shows that will be coming up in 2026, and which programme was conspicuous by its absence. Yes, it was With Love Meghan. So I think we can take it that is the end of Meghan's Netflix lifestyle cooking dross, right?
I mean, we had this conversation last year when Netflix pulled out all the stops for their previews. I can't believe I'm spacing on what they call that. You should know what they call that. Remember, upfronts.
Oh, yeah.
So here in this, they probably do it over there too, but networks will do upfronts where they gather all the media in one space and they parade
I've been to lots of them, yeah.
They parade all of their celebrities on the stage, and the celebrities will talk to media and take pictures with media. And this is at the beginning of the season because they're trying to hype all of the journalists up for the upcoming television season. And Meghan was nowhere to be seen during the upfronts last year. And we said at that time, this is not a great sign. You know, if you've got somebody on your roster who you really believe in, then why wouldn't Meghan be front and center? Why wouldn't she have a one-page ad in all of the pamphlets and everything that came with the Netflix upfronts last year? I don't know if I've had this conversation with you yet, but my girlfriend did Netflix's corporate holiday event and she engraved candles. Meghan, it wasn't As Ever candles. It was a different brand's candles.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, and so we're seeing Netflix backing away, ghosting, basically, Meghan Markle.
That's well put, Kinsey. That's exactly. It's like she's been ghosted because, as I say, I've got here this long list. I won't bore people with it of all the. Well, actually, there's some good-looking shows there. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But if I went through them, we'd be here till next week. So they've released yesterday, as you say, also a kind of showbiz journalist junket event, and they say these are all the great shows we've got coming up this year. A standard procedure in Hollywood. That's how you unveil your products, your films, your TV series. As I say, conspicuous by its absence in this long list of main attractions for Netflix in 2026 was With Love Meghan. That god-awful Christmas special that we watched, we're just playing it on YouTube. Remember just the opening scenes or the promo when she's skipping through the Christmas trees, and then she goes into that house that she doesn't own to meet a load of paid guests that she doesn't know. And somebody pointed out to me, if you watch that again, when she goes into the house, she goes like this, because everything about her is sort of so palpably false, isn't it? So she skips through the trees as if she's skipping for joy, and then when she comes into this house full of people that's not hers, full of people she doesn't know, she goes, "Hey ho!" So it was just like this kind of avalanche of falsity, and it shone through, didn't it? That this was just fakery, this was nonsense. You know, what the hell was going on when she goes, you know, that bemused Japanese tennis player who turned
hostage
up.
Situation.
Situation. And Meghan goes, "Look, I've made this wreath out of raw broccoli." And the tennis player's going, "Hey?"
Well, I mean, it was even harder for us to stomach because and Netflix said years ago, they said the reason we're different, the reason why we're better than everybody else is because we recognize that people scroll while they watch TV. So we've created content that's completely catered to the idea of somebody looking down at their phone. We were watching With Love Meghan while scrolling on our phones reading play-by-plays about her father having his leg amputated. And it was hard for us to digest the fact that Meghan was celebrating a familyless holiday. You know, okay, we got Prince Harry for 5 seconds on the screen while she makes a salad. She giddily tells us he'll loathe because it's all of the ingredients that he absolutely hates. But other than that, no sign of her children, no sign of her mother, no sign of her father. And you know, it was even harder for us to consume that as an ounce of authenticity, because we're just thinking, gosh, I hope she's, I'm watching her on the screen right now, but I really hope she's on the phone with her dad.
Yeah, and so in other words, the hypocrisy was almost overwhelming. It really was. You know, this was a series, you know, what was it, 2 series and a holiday special at Christmas, which along the way showed us how to make ice cubes, how to concoct these weird edible raw broccoli wreaths, and of course...
Don't you dare forget the rainbow. Don't you dare forget
the rainbow, and the constantly chopping vegetables, but also who can forget her very special information, vital information about how to take shop pretzels, open a bag, pour them into another bag, and put a ribbon around it. And then give it to your guests. It's amazing. It was amazing. How are we going to do without that?
That was the safest advice probably on the series, because her bath salt recommendation allegedly, according to The Sun, sent someone to the hospital with 3rd-degree burns.
I think that was maybe a little opportunistic, that lawsuit, but there was the story that went around for a while. I'm not putting any credence by it. Don't use Meghan's bath salt recipe because it will deprive you of your skin. No, it was a pointless, boring, stupid series, you know, which exuded hypocrisy and fakery. So, bye-bye.
But what are you thinking? What are you thinking about the reports that it still could result in a cookbook? Is your mindset there that Penguin Random House, similar to Spotify? Remember, Spotify was so fed up that they had this deal and Harry and Meghan weren't executing, that they were like, fine, let's do archetypes. Like, fine, like, let's just do anything. Yeah. Do you think that Penguin Random House, who we do believe has a multi-deal contract with Harry and Meghan, now that Spare's been out for a while, is so fed up that they're like, sure, we'll give her a cookbook. We'll just slap all these things into a cookbook? Or do you think that they really believe that there is an audience there for this?
Who's interviewing who here, by the way? No, seriously, no, it's a good question. That what I actually could see potentially, if you made it glossy and pretty enough, potential for a cookbook by her, although I don't think it would fly off the shelves. But it does bring us to the other big story of the Meghan week, as it were. Talking of selling products, let's talk about the story that she is not selling products. Big story broke a couple of days ago that she's sitting on a massive mountain of 572,000 unsold products. That's $21 million worth of jam, honey, wine, edible flowers, and all that other wildly overpriced stock that she flogs. What we're talking about here, according to this story, so these internet sleuths, they came up with this clever ruse. They said, let's find out how much produce she's got. So what they did online was they put in orders to As Ever, her online store, massive orders, knowing that it would break the bank, as it were, that she would not be able to meet those orders. So they said, oh, I want 2 million, you know, bags of edible flowers. And what happened was the website said, no, we haven't got that. This is how many we've got. So they did that with all the products. And these investigators say that gave us the precise rundown of the number of products she has not sold. She cannot sell, particularly over the Christmas period. I can run through them for you. It's phenomenal. Not sold, 220,000 jars of jam spread or scam jam, 30,000 jars of honey, 30,000 mulling kits, 90,000 candles, 110,000 jars of tea, and 80,000 jars of edible flowers. Over on the wine counter, not sold. 46,000 bottles of Sauvignon Blanc, 24,000 bottles of rosé, and 7,000 bottles of sparkling white. That is 572,000 lifestyle essentials not sold. This story drops, and almost like clockwork, within hours, another story drops. No. Sources close to Meghan say this story is all wrong. In fact, everything is flying off the shelf. She's sold nearly 1 million jars of jam, and the reason there's so much stock in the warehouse, as it were, is she's about to go global. She's about to take As Ever enterprises all over the world. Which story do you believe, Kinsey?
Well, there is data that indicates, it's called SimilarWeb, that put together this data that indicates that asever.com receives less than 200,000 monthly visitors. Where Gwyneth Paltrow receives closer to 1 million for her Goop brand. I think analytically, based on those numbers, I would have a hard time believing that she secured that many sales based on the traffic to her website alone.
Well, I think what the story is, that's how many of these items she's got hanging around on the shelves.
But she's trying to tell us she sold 1 million. She's trying to tell us she sold 1 million.
Yeah, I know.
And so I'm saying...
Yeah, but she only said that after it was alleged that she can't sell anything.
Right. And what to that I would say, she sat down with Bloomberg, a very well-respected business entrepreneurial media entity here. I thought it was respectful until they gave Meghan Markle the time of day. And she refused to give them any sales receipts. She refused to give them any analytics. I told you this privately over text message, and I won't use word for word what I said because this is a family show.
Yeah, I remember what you said, so yeah, be careful here.
But Meghan Markle is the type of person that when she has a win, she takes an ad out in Variety. She buys a billboard. Meghan, if she sold 1 million units, would have told Bloomberg. She would have told Fortune.
She'd sung it from the rooftops, wouldn't she? Sung it from the rooftops.
We would have heard about that. She would be relentlessly down our throats about what an incredible entrepreneur she is. But the fact that she refused to give Bloomberg any number that would legitimize her as a successful female entrepreneur tells me that she doesn't have those numbers, that those numbers don't exist because she's not. Meghan, from the very start, from the pilot episode of Beverly Hills 90210, the remake to the Shakira music video audition, her motto, whether she admits it or not, has been fake it till you make it. And that's exactly what we're seeing here.
And also, there's a familiar pattern here, isn't there? A negative story about Meghan. Within a day, that story is rebuffed and a big positive story is put out there. Usually in People magazine or Page 6 in the New York...
Or Us Weekly.
Us Weekly. They're favoured outlets that the gruesome twosome use to spin their stories. So this looks like classic. I mean, what was interesting about this claim that there are 572,000 unsold items that she just can't shift was that there was never an official, there was no denial. Meghan didn't say anything, her people didn't say anything, just this sudden story, mysteriously, within hours, or maybe not so mysteriously, crops up with sources close to Meghan saying, no, on the contrary.
The bug was fixed on her website almost instantly once the story leaked. Yeah. So now you no longer get the amount of units that are available if you type in a wild number on her website. So they're clearly offended, or they're clearly shaken by this story.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's sort of, you decide, folks. which story you think is true. I know which way I'm leaning.
And don't you think that if Netflix really believed in her, and if Netflix really believed in the product, at their corporate holiday party, there would have been as ever candles for my girlfriend to customize with her calligraphy?
Exactly right. This is one of these insiders hitting back after this story about the mountain of unsold products. A source allegedly close to Meghan declared, "I think it's fair to say business isn't just successful, it's flying off the shelf." Well, hang on, if it's flying off the shelf, how come you got 572,000 products there?
Right. If it's flying off, here's the problem. You and I could sit down and do an entire episode on the different PR strategies of the Sussexes versus the working British royal family. And you see the working British royal family thrive because they are proactive in their publicity, whereas Harry and Meghan are reactive. Yeah. Harry and Meghan are always responding. They're always so eager to shut things down. And it's it's why Never Complain, Never Explain works so wonderfully, because the British royal family realizes that the news cycle moves so quickly that if it's not an extreme like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and I do believe that that is one example where things went south. Mm-hmm. If they get ahead of it, then the news cycle moves so quickly that we move on and we're talking about the next thing. Mm-hmm. But with Harry and Meghan, it's the Streisand effect. They have to come out and fight things. And even if it's an anonymous source, we tend to know exactly who their source is, which is Harry or Meghan. Yeah. And what it does is it elevates the story. And now even more people are talking about it, and even more people are dissecting it and debating it. Now we have this website that's breaking down the web traffic to asever.com, and statistically, is she even capable of selling 1 million based on the amount of traffic she's seen? And they make the problem worse.
Yeah. Don't forget she was giving away a free jar of honey with purchases of more than
marmalade.
Marmalade. That's right, marmalade. She earned the nickname Lady Marmalade over Christmas, because if you bought more than $52 worth of produce from ASEV, you got a free jar of honey. Oh, sorry, was it marmalade?
It was orange marmalade, which honestly sounds disgusting to me. No offense, but offense, Meghan. It's you, Meghan. No offense.
The British journalist from the Daily Mail, Jan Muir, I think you and I have discussed this, that you can go into an upscale shop in Montecito, Meghan's hometown, of course.
It's called Godmothers,
where all of the range of ASEver products are there available to physically buy. Mostly, of course, you have to do it online. So Jan Muir went in there, being a journalist. She bought all the products because she wanted to try them and maybe use them for pictures. But as she was going around picking them up, she looked around and sort of basically said that she noticed that they were pretty much gathering cobwebs, and that she, as a journalist, was the only person buying this stuff. In Godmothers, according to
the employees could not tell her what the highest selling product was, which, like, lie, make it up. Yeah. To be like, oh, I don't know. As a journalist, you're going to immediately assume that means you're not moving any product. If you can't tell me exactly what you're ringing up at the cash register more often than others, then I'm assuming that this brand is not getting a lot of action at the cash register. She has the same pop-up at Soho House because her friend Marcus Anderson hooked her up there. Mm-hmm. So in LA at Soho House, she has a similar pop-up, and the product isn't moving out the door there either. And I understand the demographic of Godmothers much more than Soho House. Soho House is cool. You're in an exclusive club. You still drink on Tuesday nights. I mean, that's not somebody that wants flower sprinkles.
Exactly right, Kinsey. Exactly right. I was literally thinking that as you were saying that. Godmothers, some sort of cozy shop in, upscale, expensive shop in fashionable Montecito. I can see that. Another one of these sort of bric-a-brac stores that tend to proliferate in places like Montecito, where all the residents have got more money than sense. But Soho House, that's not the sort of the sort of people who go to Soho House, they don't go, oh, look, there's some jam, I must buy that. It's the wrong,
No, they're like,
wrong product, wrong place, right?
If you can't put the flower sprinkles up your nose.
Now.
Allegedly, my personal opinion.
Allegedly, I know what you mean. What about Harry? What the hell is he up to, if anything at all?
What is Harry up to? I mean, I really am. I think I had this. I think I said this to you last time. The conversations here are what is going on with Harry. Why did he spend the holiday away from Meghan at a polo event? And really, that's the only conversation I'm hearing is what's going on with them relationship-wise. Just stories continue to circulate about how long this can go on. I mean, I think he's in an arrogant place right now because whether it's true or not, the stories that are leaking are that he's going to get automatic security the second he lands in the UK from now on. I think that is so disruptive and destructive towards the British royal family. I hope that that's not true.
I don't think it is, Kinsey, but you know, I don't know. I just have serious doubts about this. The British government.
Is it Yvette Cooper who he went to Ukraine with? Who did he go to?
Well, I think it was Yvette Cooper there. It was certainly a representative of the British government was there, and he's cozied
and it's
up
my understanding that he cozied up to whoever that was, like disappears away from the journalist that was assigned to be with him.
Yeah. Well, but that wouldn't.
And also wrote a handwritten letter to them explaining why he felt like his family needed this. You know, you don't live in the UK anymore. That service is for people that live in the United Kingdom. You are not a resident of the United Kingdom anymore. That is why it should not be available to you.
Well, that service is for frontline working royals, and not all of them. It's for the King. I think that Princess Anne gets it, but some of them, I'm not sure Edward does. So not all of the royal family, even in Britain, get it. So he used to get it, but he doesn't get it now because he's not a working royal. He's not a frontline royal. Doesn't even.
But he also isn't a resident there, and that's why people were suggesting could he be planning on moving back? The reason
could be interesting, but I'd just be astonished if it's true, because the British government, his father's government, King Charles's government, has spent the last 2 years or so spending a lot of money hiring very expensive lawyers to fight the case against Harry, to say no. We are not going to charge British taxpayers for your security, armed police guards, when you come to Britain, because that isn't right. So they spent 2 years defending that case, fighting that case, and victoriously, by the way. They've won the case. So for them to suddenly go, oh, we've changed our minds, I just don't see it. I don't see it. But if it is true, I mean, the word is that this is all about Harry desperately wanting to spend more time in Britain, hopefully with his kids. If that is true, what we're hearing is Meghan's not very keen on that, so there may be trouble ahead.
Well, we're also hearing that Harry wants to educate his children there, but I don't think that Meghan would ever move back over there. And I also don't think she'd send her children overseas to go to school. I believe like to educate his children over there because your schools are better. You don't have to worry about mass shootings, you know? But I just don't think that Meghan loves the life she has. I mean, I do think that Meghan's miserable because not everybody likes her, but she has accomplished all of her dreams thanks to her husband's surname, thanks to the title that she got with her, through her husband. She was pitching lifestyle shows before she met Prince Harry. She would, she wanted to do cookbooks before she met Prince Harry. She wanted to be an influencer. That's what she was trying to do with the TIG and Instagram before she met Prince Harry. All of the things that she was trying to do before she met Prince Harry have come, she's made come true. He's made come true. I don't think she wants to leave LA. I think that
I couldn't agree with you more. She ain't coming back here. I don't think I think it's a long shot she'll even ever visit, let alone come back to live. There's no way she's coming back to live. And so to that extent, I don't think she'd let her kids be educated here. And just in case you think that perhaps Eton is the finest school in the world and that all kids who come out of Eton are very, very clever and well educated, I give you Prince Harry to prove that that is not the case.
Boris Johnson is so offended right now. But yeah, I feel like, in my personal opinion, I think if it's true that he's being told that you are all systems go on the security front, I believe that Harry is plotting a rival court to disrupt and to harass the it's my opinion, the Prince and Princess of Wales, and to make their life difficult, because I think he is still very vengeful and bitter. I reread Spare over the holiday. God,
you reread it? My God.
I know. And I just think
the worst book you've read twice, right?
You and I both know that
actually, it's a very readable book. It's a very readable book.
He has a great ghost blogger.
Yeah.
I was just trying to catch him in some lies based on new information I had, and went back and read some of it. But he is a very bitter and resentful person, and I think he envies his brother and wants to make his brother's life more difficult.
Yes.
And it's like, guy's still dealing with cancer on both sides, his wife and his father. Catherine in remission, thank God. But leave your brother alone. You're not in the same league anymore. You're just simply not. You're a celebrity, and your brother is going to be king one day. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. As you say, I have my serious doubts. But if he does get these cop guards, these armed police protection when he comes back to Britain, that will be the green light for him to bring the kids back, to spend more and more time here. Meghan won't like that. So if that is the scenario, as I said earlier, there may be trouble ahead. There could be marital trouble. So it's going to be an interesting 2026.